What is going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got an insane story time that was sent in to me about a spoiled kid that ended up throwing a wrench at a car. Yeah, not too sure why you would decide to do that, but whatever. It's gonna be an entertaining story time. So, if you're excited, press the like button, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the person who sent this in to me when they were younger lived in a neighborhood that had like a ton of kids that were around the same age. And it was a ton of fun because they could literally play like 11 on 11 touch football and just have themselves a great time. But there was one kid that we're gonna name Eric for the purpose of this story time, who was super annoying to try to play with because he would just constantly cheat. And listen, when you're playing like 11 on 11 football, just don't cheat because, I don't know, you're gonna ruin the game for quite a few people. And on top of it, even if you're not like the best player of all time, you got 10 teammates that are gonna be able to help you out a little bit. But he would just do things like people would touch him, he would just deny it and then start a huge argument, postpone the game, be all dramatic, quit, take a bunch of people with him. Or like, you know, he would say people stepped out of bounds or da-da-da-da-da, that type of stuff. Just really annoying things. And he kept doing it one day, and even his own team was getting annoyed with him. They're like, bro, quit stopping the game to whine. It's seriously being more annoying than it is helpful. Like, can we actually play? All the stuff you're complaining about either isn't against the rules, not a big deal, or didn't happen, so just please stop. And for whatever reason on this day, Eric was like, no, I am going to ruin the game for everyone. And he just kept complaining, kept cheating, kept whining. And so eventually everybody in the game was like, you're not allowed to play anymore. We will go find someone else. They went and knocked on someone else's door, brought him out, and they were like, Eric, you can't play anymore. Which, listen, some people are going to think is mean, but it's not like they didn't tell him to knock it off over and over. And if somebody's just not following the rules of the game, like, okay, they're just not fun to play with. Especially when you give them multiple chances to just get it together. Like, hey man, please stop or we're gonna kick you out. They keep doing it. At that point, you kick them out, you're pretty justified. He was pretty pissed though and started arguing with them, saying that they couldn't do that because, you know, he had the ability to play wherever he wanted to play. And they were like, yeah, but we don't want to play with you. So I don't know, man. You can sit there and watch, but like, we're not gonna give you the ball. Everyone's gonna pretend you don't exist. And so he stands there for a little bit and everyone just keeps playing and pretending he doesn't exist, and he's yelling at them, like screaming things, and everyone's just ignoring him. And so he decides to go into his garage, and everyone thinks at that point that Eric's just like gone bye-bye. He's gonna go inside, he's pissed off or whatever, but nope, his pettiness level is a little bit more than that. And so he comes back out to like the end of his driveway, which is in the middle of the game that they're playing, with his bike, and starts working on it with some wrenches. And when I said working on it, I threw up the air quotes, not that you could see it, because he was just kind of like taking wrenches that didn't even fit on his bike and just kind of like smacking the bike and complaining super loudly about how everyone that was playing sucked and how they shouldn't have kicked him out, da-da-da-da-da. And they're literally watching him, like, for example, like imagine taking a socket wrench that's just way too small for anything on the bike and smacking the tire and being like, I'm out here working on my bike while all those losers over there that suck are just doing nothing. It was just more entertaining than anything, but of course after a while it got annoying, so a few people playing the game were like, dude, can you please stop? And he was like, no, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna sit here and work on my bike and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so they realized that there really was nothing that they could do about it, so they just went back to playing the game. And now he was pissed off that they were just ignoring him even when he was complaining. They weren't asking him to stop or doing anything about it. So he decided that the best course of action would be to take his little protest to the middle of the street. So he goes out into the middle of the game and starts working on his bike, so he would be like in the middle of the game. But instead of like getting mad or arguing with him or stopping the game, they just moved it down like 40 feet so that way he was at the back of the end zone now. So they're just really avoiding him. And he keeps trying to find ways to ruin the game and be annoying. I don't think he realized that it was just making them more sure of their decision to not play the game with him in the first place. But they keep playing, and now he's playing in the middle of the street with his bike at the end and still complaining and whatnot, and they're just ignoring him. But because they're playing in the street, eventually a car comes. It's not like it's one of these neighborhoods where cars are banned. I don't know if those actually exist. Could you imagine? Like, everyone has to park their car at the parking lot in the front of the neighborhood and then walk home, okay? We don't allow any cars close. There's a car coming, and when you're a little kid playing in the street, I feel like this is pretty universal. I've never, like, talked about a memory about this and seen someone look at me like they don't know what I'm talking about. Someone usually yells out, "car," everyone turns, looks to see where it's coming from, and then you move out of the road. So 22 kids that are playing this game move out of the road. But sure enough, he's just sitting there, like, pretending to work on his bike still and ignoring it for some reason. And I'm not sure why he was doing that. I don't know if he thought it was going to get the kids playing football in trouble. I don't know if he just felt like being annoying. I don't know if he was so mad he was going to take it out on cars now or what. But he literally just stays in the middle of the street, sitting there with his bike pretending to work on it. And so the car gets probably like 3 feet away and stops, obviously. It's not a GTA server where it just slammed on the gas or anything. And it's sitting there for probably about 10, 15 seconds, and they hear the window rolling down, and like a guy, probably mid-age, I don't know, like 35, 40 years old, sticks his head out of the window and says, "Hey, can you move out of the road? Like, I gotta get by. Can you see me? Like, can you move out of the road?" And the kid just ignores him. Eric pretends that he doesn't exist. He's like, "Meh, I don't know. I don't really hear anything. I'm just gonna pretend that nothing's happening." Which, listen, if I was the guy in the car, that would probably bug the crap out of me. Like, I'm trying to nicely tell you to move out of the road because you're just working on your bike in the middle of the road and you're gonna pretend I don't exist as if somehow I'm in the wrong for this. Imagine if I came up and just parked my car in the middle of your football game. That'd probably be annoying. So, whatever. He's ignoring him, and so the guy leans back in and just decides to honk his horn. And I don't think that he was doing it maliciously to, like, try to scare the crap out of him. I think he was just trying to go, "Get out of my way." He had tried to tell him to move. The kid is in the middle of the road. Honestly, most people probably would have started with the honk. I feel like most people wouldn't even have taken the time to lean out the window. At least in my neighborhood, bro. Like, there would be people that would honk even if we got out of the way just because, I don't know, whatever, they were just pissed. But when he honks the horn, Eric, for some reason, decides that the only appropriate response to take to being honked at when you are in the middle of the road blocking the intersection is to turn. And you know how he was working on it with like that little socket wrench that was too small for the bike and kind of smacking the rubber tire? Well, he turns and, almost like that scene in Dodgeball, takes the wrench and just throws it at the car. And Eric didn't have a lot of athletic ability. I would say he had the athletic ability of a small slug. That being said, when you're throwing a wrench at a car, you'd have to be really, really, really bad at everything to be able to miss that from like 5 feet away. So, of course, everybody lets out a gasp as this wrench is just kind of like spinning over itself towards the car, and it smacks right into the windshield. And they weren't incredibly old or anything, but like when you throw a wrench as hard as you can at a windshield, obviously the windshield is going to do the windshield thing, and it cracks the windshield and it gives out this big just like the I don't know what it is, not spiderwebbing across, but like a couple cracks kind of shoot out from it. Didn't go all the way across, but it spiderwebs out a little bit. And everybody is just like, "Oh crap, he just broke that car's windshield. What do we do?" No one's ever seen anything like this before. This isn't commonplace. Believe it or not, usually when they're out here playing football and a car comes, everyone gets out of the road, the car drives by, they go back to their game, and that's it. There's no other events that need to happen. There's no other events that should happen. That should be the end of it. So this windshield is cracked, everyone is in shock, and Eric, at that point, leaves his bike in the road, but just turns and sprints inside. Probably realizing that he was about to be in a metric butt ton of trouble, like had to have been just freaking out at that point. I don't know what you expect, though. I mean, obviously you're afraid of getting in trouble, but at the same time, what do you think is gonna happen when you throw a wrench at glass? Did you just think it was gonna bounce off and he was gonna be like, "Hey man, that's not cool. I don't appreciate you throwing wrenches at my car"? So he runs inside. The guy who's driving the car throws his car in park and runs out and starts banging on the door. obviously wanting to talk to a parent or something. I mean, at this point, there's a couple $100 of damage done to his car, and on top of it, why is your kid acting like this? Did you teach your kid to just park his bike in the middle of the road, and when someone tells him to move, just ignore the existence and then throw a wrench? What did you teach him to do? I think there's a lot of things that probably let you know if you're doing a bad job as a parent, but this has got to be one of those ones that's like, oh, I'm doing a really bad job. When your kid is just being a nuisance to strangers and just damaging their things, causing hundreds of dollars in damage. Especially because if a kid's gonna run around causing a ton of damage, it's awful for the people that you're causing the damage for. You just shouldn't do it. But on top of it, you're massively burdening your family. Because who do you think is on the hook for all this crap that you break, man? It's probably not the person that's not legally able to have a job. No, mom and dad are gonna have to pick up an extra shift to pay for the stuff you broke like an absolute idiot. Anyways, the guy's banging on the door for a while, and he's not really screaming a lot, but all 22 of the people playing football are sitting watching this, waiting for this to go off. And finally, his dad answers. And instead of being like, what's going on, what's happening, anything like that, he starts yelling at the guy banging on the door to get away from the door. Why is he doing that? Like, get out of here. And so he starts yelling back that your kid broke my windshield, and the kid's dad starts saying, no, he didn't. My son would never do anything like that, da-da-da-da-da. And they're yelling back and forth for a bit, and everyone's listening to the argument, and then they hear fighting start, and at that point, they decide to get out of there. So they all, boom, sprint in every direction. Everybody scatters like a bunch of cockroaches if you've ever lifted up something heavy in a gross person's house. And so the person who sent this to me goes inside, and they tell their mom, they're like, listen, this is what happened. We were out there playing football. The kid kept cheating. Gives her the rundown and then says, so he threw a wrench at a car and it broke the windshield. And his mom starts doing the mom thing where she's like, why? What happened? When? Like all of this stuff. So he tells her, and she says, okay, well, stay in here. I'll be right back. And she goes outside. And he thought she would be right back, but she's gone for a while. And I love how parents always used to do this, dude. When I was younger, my mom would be like, I'll be right back, you know, an hour later. Where were you? Oh, you know, I had to do some taxes. It's even worse when you're at the grocery store, bro. You have like the cart full of stuff. You're chilling there. Your mom says she's going to go grab one more thing, and then she's gone, and you like get to the point where you're checking out. She said she'd be right back. Either way, she's gone for about an hour and a half, and she comes back inside, and obviously he wants to know what happened, and she says, all right, well, basically the guy and the dad ended up getting into a huge, just big fight, culminating in the dad grabbing a pipe and continuing to break the windshield on the guy's car. Which is the perfect reaction, especially when you have a kid and you're trying to teach them how to like react to things and be a functioning member of society. Teach them that if they throw a wrench at a car and break a windshield, that the proper response from parents is to break the windshield even further and fight the guy. Obviously, the guy was now very not happy, so he ended up calling the cops. The cops came and, like, took statements and everything. And his mom ended up having to talk to them and be like, well, this is what my son said happened, da-da-da-da-da. And a bunch of other parents were out there. It's not like she was the only parent out there. And the cops kind of were like, well, what do you want to do to the guy who had this situation happen? And he says, I don't want to press charges, which, you know, I kind of get. But at the same time, bro, if he beat the crap out of you, went to his garage, grabbed a metal pipe, and then beat your car, I don't know. Guy's kind of a stinky poo-poo head. Either way, he just said he wanted the damages to get paid for. And at that point, the dad of Eric, who is super embarrassed because he had done all of this in front of his neighbors. They're basically all out there watching this go down. They've had to talk to the cops that got called because of this entire ordeal. Is like, fine, whatever, I'll pay for the damages. Just please leave. This is embarrassing. I love how he's embarrassed. Like, you want to know how to avoid this embarrassment? The second the guy knocked on the door, instead of opening it and fighting him right away, be like, what happened? And when he tells you and you find out that's true, just offer to fix the windshield. Either way, you ended up having to pay for it. Except now you had to go through this entire thing and like, what? You fought for nothing. You still had the exact same result. That's what I don't understand about like some people who get into a fight. Listen, if you're getting robbed or something, like there's certain times you have to punch somebody in the face. You got no option. This didn't have to escalate to that. It was just really not on that trajectory until he came out and went all like, I'm gonna beat you up, brah. Look at me. I'm a big, scary, angry Bigfoot guy. Whatever, Eric had kind of caused all of this, but at that point his dad was like, you did nothing wrong, it's totally okay. Horrible parenting. Even if you overreact and do something nuts, you don't then go to your kid and be like, yep, see, we both did nothing wrong. Everyone else are the crazy ones here. Like, you did still beat up someone and then beat their car with a pipe. That's still pretty crazy. I don't really know if you should be telling your kid that he did nothing wrong for throwing a wrench either. But his mom says that's kind of what happened, and they came back inside. And so she said that he had to stay inside for the rest of the day, which was pretty reasonable. I'm sure things were pretty tense. And so he spent the rest of the day playing PS2, some Ratchet and Clank, which was such a good game, man. I don't really know whatever happened to that franchise, but I'm probably going to break out the PS2 and play it. So whoever sent this to me, thank you for that nostalgia trip. PS2, one of the best consoles of all time. It's not even arguable. Either way, the next day, they were outside and they're all playing football. And Eric comes outside, and the subscriber doesn't mention anything about it just because, whatever, he didn't really care enough to talk about it anymore. But obviously, a lot of the people that he was playing football with wanted to talk about it. And so they're like, Eric, what happened yesterday when you broke that guy's windshield? Like, your dad beat him up. What happened? They're wanting his side of the story, obviously, because they're just curious, which is understandable. Kids just be asking questions like that. They just want to know everything. But instead of just saying something along the lines of like, guys, I really don't want to talk about it. You know, my dad said not to talk about it, so I'm just going to drop it. Like, I'd prefer it if we moved on or something like that. He goes the route of just trying to gaslight everyone, all like the 30, 40 people that witness things, and he says, what are you guys talking about? And obviously they give him a recap just in case he forgot about how, you know, he was fixing his bike in the road, the guy came, honked the horn, he threw it, his dad got in a fight, the cops came, all that stuff. And he's like, no, that didn't happen yesterday. And everyone's like, no, it was 2 days ago. And he's like, nope, no, it wasn't. I don't think that's ever happened. From what I can remember, I can't remember anything that has happened along those lines. And that's hilarious to me, bro. Like, everybody saw that. You're really gonna go with the whole it never happened thing when it was something of that magnitude? Like, we're not talking about you farting and then going, I didn't fart, you know? Like, it's still weird to deny it to that level, but we're talking about something that everyone definitely knows happened. Like, what do you mean? No one's gonna forget what went down yesterday. But what's even crazier is it expanded to his whole family. Like, the kid came in and his mom said, well, I talked to their mom and she was just pretending that nothing happened. And when I brought it up, she just denied it and said that that never happened. So I don't really know what's going on, but isn't that weird? And he goes, yeah, well, the kid's denying that it happened too. It was like the entire family was so embarrassed about what had happened that they just decided to just pretend it never happened. The only issue is when your neighbors were literally like giving statements and whatnot and everyone saw it go down, I don't think there's a big capacity for people eventually being like, maybe I just dreamed the entire thing. And especially there was one time at like a neighborhood barbecue thing where one of the dads brought it up to their dad as a joke, just trying to be funny, and like a bunch of time had passed so everyone was over it anyways, and the guy kind of slammed the lid of the barbecue all pissed off and looked at him and said, I don't know what you're talking about, but even if I did, I think it'd be very inappropriate to bring it up. And the dad was kind of like, okay, sorry, but, you know, it did happen. And he's like, no, it didn't. I can't think of any time that something like that has happened. Which, listen, man, like, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal. But once it's happened, what are you going to do about it? I think pretending that it never happened makes it a bigger deal. Obviously, it's a big deal what happened. I'm not trying to say that that wasn't a big deal, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like, you're making it weirder by pretending it never happened rather than just just being like, look, I lost my temper really, really bad. It's super embarrassing. I prefer not to talk about it because I'm really ashamed of it. I think people would be way more understanding than when you just pretend that everything they witnessed never happened and make them feel crazy, especially when you're doing it angrily, like you're slamming the lid of the barbecue. Oh, I'm mad, but that also never happened. But I'm very mad, but it never happened. And I'm pissed, but it never happened. Like, it's just a very bizarre message. Either way, I guess the moral of the story is that you should not throw wrenches at cars. I'm sure 99% of you already knew that, but for the 1% of the people watching this video who were on the fence about it, don't do it. You're going to end up in a crap ton of trouble, and your dad might end up needing to pay for the windshield. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. And, of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you like the story times, but you'd rather listen to the audio versions, I do post the audio over on Spotify. Link down below. Feel free to check it out. And also in the description is a link to a playlist here on YouTube where I have my favorite story times of the year. So if you want something to listen to while you're doing chores, video games, homework, whatever it may be, feel free to check that out. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.